Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings, the podcast that gets you going before you get going. Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings. My name is Vivi, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Ryan. Today, we're going to be talking about the book Mad Genius, a manifesto for entrepreneurs by Randy Gage. So a good way to summarize this book overall is kind of just a summary of things that Randy Gage has seen over his time as someone who's worked with a lot of entrepreneurs over the course of his career. One of the first points that he emphasizes that I liked was the fact that sometimes the big idea is actually quite little. But what does he mean by that? Randy goes on to say that you don't need the largest multi-million-dollar budget in the world like Coca-Cola or Apple to make a big impact. Sometimes you just need a really small idea that could be amplified through creativity. He uses the example of a physical therapist that he had in his gym recently. He had a table and a nice whiteboard, all of which cost him very little much money, and he put that up one day for a 2-hour span and wrote on it, "Tell me about your pain." Now Randy goes on to say how in the course of this 2 hours, all he would do was talk to the people in the gym about what they have going on, and then he would demonstrate a specific myofascial release technique that he was specialized in and tell the people, "Oh, do you feel any better or worse?" Now, over the course of these 2 hours, he would do about 10-minute quick little treatments with every person, and everyone loved this free treatment, and the physical therapist got a lot of clientele or patients. So after doing this for a few weeks, the physical therapist was so booked out, and all of this marketing was done for free. Just took a little creativity. Now, if the physical therapist was about to do a Facebook ad or, a Google ad or try to get SEO marketing on it, probably would take him a lot more money, and it probably would have been a lot less effective. So Randy likes to talk about having that big idea as little of a financial burden to yourself as you can, because all you really need is a little bit of creativity to make some big impact like that. And additionally to this point, Randy also mentions how the biggest reason for businesses to fail is undercapitalization. And in my opinion, what better way to save money on capital than to think of some creative ways that people can save money on marketing costs? Randy also talks about this point in how people tend to lose money on undercapitalization because they don't have enough creative ways to think about the hurdles and the burdens that they have to navigate. They just think, oh, this costs X amount of money, that's what I need. There's a lot of creative ways to approach different solutions. And so I think another point, additionally to the first one, is that to think creatively with the capital that you do have initially.
As I'm sure you guys can tell by now, a big theme of this book is creativity and how creativity relates to entrepreneurs. So Randy Gage talks about how entrepreneurs, a lot of the good ones have the ability to solve problems, and they usually end up being really successful. But the entrepreneurs that are super successful, the big difference is that these entrepreneurs, they have the ability to envision possibilities that are not yet in existence. Those are the entrepreneurs that are extremely, extremely successful. Let me give you an example. So no one was asking for the iPad, but Steve Jobs and Apple was able to see an opportunity to create something that had value, even though you could argue there was no initial problem to begin with. The iPad didn't exist before. No one knew they wanted it because they didn't know it was a thing. But Steve Jobs was creative enough to be able to see that there was a market and a need for this product. And as I'm sure you guys know, Apple is one of the most successful companies in the world with a market cap of over $1 trillion. So having the ability to think creatively and see opportunities that aren't obvious can make you really successful. Not only as an entrepreneur, but also just in life. It's a great skill to have. There's plenty of opportunities in life out there, but sometimes they're not obvious. It's up to you to find them, to see them, and then pursue them. Another example of creative thinking would be Henry Ford. So Henry Ford is famous for saying that he thought that if he asked his customers what they wanted, his customers would have said they wanted faster horses. But instead, as I'm sure you guys could have guessed, Henry Ford thought that the solution was to build automobiles.
That kind of reminds me of that Thomas Edison quote, Ryan, where he says, "I haven't failed. I've just learned 999 ways not to make a light bulb." And Randy Gage relates this point to one that he talks about called the big lie. Randy then explains it by asking people, 100 people specifically, what the opposite of success is. He has to ask you right now, what's the opposite of success? He says 99% of people will say failure. But he says that's the big lie in society these days. He says the actual opposite of success is mediocrity. He goes on to say that not only is failure not the opposite of success, but is actually a meaningful and necessary part of success. In reality, the greater the opportunity for failure, or failure itself, the more granted or potentially huge the opportunity for successes. And he finally adds that failures are actually not dead ends. They are only dead ends if you actually quit. The last point that Randy had that I thought was really interesting was the actual one I'll take away from this book for the long term. He calls it the 20-70-10 formula. And the formula is about what kind of people are in every single workplace. Randy says that 20% of the people who work with you will do the least amount possible work to get paid and get out of there. They're going to be around until you find a way to get rid of them, or until they eventually bleed you out for money. 10% of the people are entrepreneurs on their own and are probably on their way to owning a business of their own shortly. But until then, they are super high valuable to a win-win formula of the owner's standpoint, and also from the employee standpoint until they run off and do something on their own. Your culture, values, mission, workforce, organizational behaviors and patterns have no impact on those 30% of your employees. All that other stuff that you make in business school and that you're taught to make is only aimed towards 70% of the remaining employees. So the goal of any company is to illuminate the bottom 20% and nurture the 70% of the intrapreneurs, which means aimed at becoming entrepreneur within the company themselves.
Another item that Randy talks about in the book is using social media. So in today's age, social media is huge with like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And companies often use this to build their brand, like your business brand or even your personal brand. But what Randy argues is much more valuable is the ability to use social media to get real-time feedback. Instead of telling people what your company is about, you can use social media to hear what people think your company is about. And that's, Randy argues, even more valuable. These programs or these applications give you the ability to get this real-time feedback. What do people think about our products? Another thing Randy talks about involving social media is, again, the ability to think ahead and be creative. So a lot of businesses have Instagram pages, or even better example, Facebook groups. And these become very popular. They have a lot of people. They have millions of followers or group members. But the thing what happened with Facebook is when they got more and more popular, Facebook would start charging for ads, and Facebook would control what others would see depending on different demographics. So as a business owner, you start losing this control over your Facebook group. You've accumulated all these followers in this group, and then all of a sudden Facebook changes what these people see. So Randy argues, if you're able to think creatively and look ahead, what you should be doing instead is migrating these people to your own platform or to your own app or your own website, because this is something your business can fully control. That's everything we got for you today, folks. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. If you guys like this book and you want to learn more, feel free to get a free trial of Audible by going to audibletrial.com/motivational mornings to get a free 30-day trial. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.